I'm here to talk to you now about educational reform. I'm telling you this as a teacher that I am. I have been teaching since 1999 and I have taught at variety levels, adult school, high school, and now elementary. I have seen a lot of things, and that even though school reform is a very hot topic, nobody, I'm sad to say, nobody has hit it on the dot. We they're trying to put more accountability on teachers as we don't have enough. Adding more minutes as if we're not exceeding the amount of minutes allowable in our school day already, and other such things. Yet the root of the problem has not been addressed properly, and if it has been leaning towards the wrong side. Let's begin. The major root of the problem is the comes from the top. So we need to reform from the top to the bottom. We need to make sure that those people who are elected and assigned into educationally political or politically educational positions, such as the Secretary of Education, can prove minimum of 10 years teaching experience. We ask of experience in so many areas, and some we demanded of our legislators who try and push for educational policies. For example, we have Margaret Spellings, who's not a teacher, being our Secretary of Education. Her only experience is helping her children with their homework. Hey, if that's enough experience to be able to run education, hey, why not hire somebody off the streets for that matter? It's ridiculous. My area of education has not been law, so I do not know what it is like to prepare one's case in the court. So I will not go into the court and tell Margaret Spellings how to prepare her defense or her case, whatever matter that would be. Her field of education is law, not education, so she should butt out of it. And our presidents, Obama, McCain, whoever you comes to power, listen good. Make sure the person you nominate to Secretary of Education can prove 10 years of teaching experience. Otherwise, we will continue doing more harm to our kids, such as Bush has done through his flawed No Child Left Behind, pushed by a lawyer with no teaching experience and devoid of research, devoid of what really goes on in the classrooms. That's the first thing. Reform from the top. Make sure that our top decision makers can prove that they have teaching experience. Next thing we need to do, get rid of 227 and bring back bilingual education. Even though I have an accent, I am evidence that bilingual education does work to teaching people how to speak English as a second language and do so fluently. Because even though I have an accent, I can talk to you in highly academic terms, if need be, thanks to bilingual education. But we need the bilingual education people to be properly trained for it and not go by what failed districts say about a particular program. We have let our mentality of 227 be based on LA Unified and districts of that caliber, which have consistently been scoring at the bottom on everything. We need to base ourselves on a quality district to see what the bilingual education is like. Bilingual education, if done properly, is successful. And if it's done properly, it will have both languages, English and Spanish. That's why it's called bilingual. 2 languages. Get that through your skulls. All you bigots who are opposed to it. The purpose of bilingual education is that while the children are learning English, they do not fall behind in all these other subjects that they need, such as math, social studies, and science, and a few other subjects like character development, which are now being required by the state of California, and it is my understanding that under No Child Left Behind as well. There's only so much to die special design academic instruction in English can do to be able to help our non-English speaking students who are recent immigrants. Take the word apple, for example. And let's say we're teaching it to a student from, say, Turkmenistan who may have arrived, where they don't speak no English and no Spanish. They see us talking about a red apple. In their mind, the child could be wondering, as is often the case, is this teacher talking to me about the color red, about the apple per se, or about the category of fruit, or about the broader category of food? Or is he talking to me about a hardness or about health? Many of our children come in with those questions, and that only slows down their learning. If they have access to some primary language support, so as to bridge that gap, they will learn even better. It's all evidence in the scores. Look everywhere around. Most schools have low ELA scores when they're being assessed. And that is precisely because of the lack of primary language support in the classroom. Bring back bilingual education. Make sure it is properly led. And I assure you, those scores will increase. They will at least triple. Further evidence of it, we can see that prior to 227, the average percentage of students with limited English proficiency in a classroom was about 30%. 30% on average of the students in a particular school were limited English proficient, or ELs as they are now called. Now, on average, they are 70%. The number of students with limited English proficiency has gone up since 227. What else is there that we need to see how 227 was a failure? Another thing we need to do, we need to make sure that we hold back the students that are not making it. That's a major problem. We have all these softies, all these wahoos condemning grade level retention. Oh, let's not hold them back. They're going to suffer. Their self-esteem is going to drop. I have news for you. What do you think is going to happen to their self-esteem when that where that second grader is in the 5th grade and still performing at a second grade level? What do you think is going to happen to his self-esteem? Still going to drop. Why do you think you have so many dropouts nowadays? Don't tell me research says that the retention increases dropouts. Interesting data. In a research that has been done recently, 60% of the students are moved on to satisfactorily mastering the standards. 10% are retained, and 30% are moved on without having satisfactorily mastered their content. Dropout rate is also at 60 to 70%. Do you see the correlation there? The 30% who are being moved on are more at risk of dropping out because they're falling behind. We have some of those softies arguing that research shows that retention doesn't work. Well, those researchers have researched people who have been passed on for 3 years before actually being held back. If a child is not being able to keep up with his own grade level, what makes us so sure that he's going to be able to keep up with 3 years worth? Let's get it straight. We want our kids to score well in our tests. We have standards. Teach to the standards. Stop teaching to the test. If we teach to the standards and hold the students accountable for the standards, they will perform. That's what we need to retain students who are not mastering the standards. If a kindergarten is not mastering the standards, so be it. Let him be retained.